You're in the field house with the Clack Academy.
All about the ball. Yeah. Tonight, we find a way.
And they knock
A-plus content.
Wood County
Authentic stories.
to be the 7A champions.
Actionable
Georgia
takeaways.
We're going
2018.
to attack them like they've never been attacked.
This is the Field House Podcast.
Coaches, what's up? This is Coach Tad. Here we are, another episode of the Field House, and the gang's back together. We got everybody here, so it's really good. Obviously, Coach Mash, always good to connect with you, and Coach Clack, good to see you again. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Just another Sunday of game planning and debriefing from the first game with the staff today, and getting ready to get the plan built for this week.
And man, It feels like, at the end of the day, doesn't it feel good that we are talking football, like real live football when it counts? The scoreboard's on, we're keeping a record of it. I mean, it's been a long time for us to get to this point.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of reflecting on it last 2 weeks because we had our scrimmage game 2 weeks ago, which is our dress rehearsal, and then last week. And it's funny how 3 years can feel just yesterday and feel a million years away at the same time. And even this 7 months, like you're saying, there's so much work, especially these last 7 months, just head down, going. And there's so much stuff other than just football, that has really needed my attention and gotten my attention. And then, so when it gets up on you, it's like, holy, here it is. Here it is. And, they call it midseason form for a reason. You're still working through some things. And, like we've talked about before, the dynamics of where we are. It's brand new staff together, young roster. We're learning them. We're constantly analyzing what we're doing to the best of our ability. And yeah, man, it's just, you think back. So again, 3 years ago, I was at the tail end of my Milton tenure, which was 5 years with a lot of guys that I had coached with for a while. So by that time, everything was just like completing each other's sentences.
Mm-hmm.
I think Coach Mash can probably attest to that. I mean, there's a lot of times we're just spending in the coach's office, just, hey, let's talk this through again. Let's reassess this plan. Something just doesn't feel quite right. Maybe I'm thinking back on, a past team and all the different dynamics that went into what I remember being successful and a good way to do it. This is a completely new team, a completely new staff. And I think that's kind of a general message that or a theme that we're probably going to talk about today.
Yeah.
You can have all the great plans in the world, and we talk about a lot of them on this show. But I want to be the first to say that, and I'm still in your term here, Matt, there are no silver bullets. There are great practices to learn from and study and apply. But at the end of the day, I mean, every one of these teams is unique and in and of its own way. So you've got to constantly be reiterating and iterate your process and your plan as you work through the season.
You hear it all the time, right? That on-field chemistry is so important. Program chemistry is just important. The way we interact as a program with the players, within the staff, externally, that's sort of still all part of the, we still had to find that chemistry and build that chemistry and refine it over time. It's not just the on the field stuff.
Yeah, and we're gonna dive into kind of a little bit of the game and get some of the overall feedback. But before we do, the first question I've got for you, Clack, and today's episode is gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be more kind of an interview style where we're gonna fire some questions at you and get your feedback. You mentioned it's probably been about 3 years since you've been on the sidelines and actually coached a real live game. What did it feel like being back out on the sidelines doing that again?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it's, like riding a bike, but again, in other ways, I mean, even down to understanding what my weekly flow of my day is like. I'm in the classroom for the first couple periods. We had the boys come in third period. I was used to more of boys in first period. We would have breakfast, kind of roll into the day that way. And then I had plenty of time in the morning to kind of get my notes together, send my message out to the staff. And again, things that I've thought about, but until you feel it, it's like, whoa, I got to reassess kind of, do I need to do some stuff the night before? Because now all of a sudden it's noon and I still hadn't gotten to these couple things I always like to have done by the morning. And again, you throw in on top of it, we had an early release because we had a 2-hour bus ride. So again, yeah, it was in a way, a first time. And so working through those things where we are right now, then we get a darn weather delay. So it was a lot thrown at us in game one right there that we were sorting through. But But I was proud of the staff all in all and the boys of how we handled those things.
Let's talk specifically about the game now, right? So we had our first game, North Paulding on the road. Obviously, the score didn't go the way you wanted it to go. It was a 41-27 loss on the road. But I want to kind of break down what we saw and kind of get your feedback. So just kind of give me your overall, Clack, give me your overall thoughts on Friday night. What what really stood out to you? How are you feeling about how the first game went?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about holistic game planning, right? We've talked about that in an episode before. So we had a specific one for this. And I think reflecting back, we were on track or we had the right idea. I think we knew what we were expecting on offense. We knew what we were expecting on defense. We kind of had a good idea of our strengths and weaknesses. So our goal, was to be a highly aggressive 4-down mindset on offense, play with a lot of tempo. We knew we were going to have some matchup issues inside in the run game, offense to their defense. So we wanted to kind of get as many body blows on those guys as we could, try to stack up plays, and just keep that defense on the field. Conversely, to match that, to complement that, we wanted to play an aggressive style of defense and really put an emphasis on, hey, win first down, try to get them behind the chains, because we knew they wanted to establish a very physical running game and kind of drag us into one of these more methodical games where they keep our defense on the field. So that was what we were trying to employ. We take the ball. And I normally am a defer guy, but sometimes with a game plan like that, I want to, hey, let's put their defense on the field that extra drive while it's hot. Let's come out. We got our opener. Feel good about getting a first down here. And sure enough, we 3 and out. We 3 and out. We had a positive first down play, and then we have a pre-snap infraction. Punt it away. Don't really flip the field. They get the ball. And here they come. They start establishing that running game. And we were having a few substitution issues as we were trying to match their personnel on defense, kind of another ongoing thing, a tough challenge for our defense in game one. We kind of knew they'd get in some heavy sets and they would get in some spread sets, so we wanted to match that. So I would say the game started and we felt like we had a little trouble kind of catching gear. A lot of things that you see sometimes in game one. But, the game plan was to keep their defense on the field, move not methodically, but move with speed and tempo, try to win first down as much as we can. And we just did not establish that out of the gate. I think we started with 2 3 and outs on offense. They got great field position and were able to, punch it in and put us behind 14-0 right out of the jump. So we're already kind of starting, in a tough spot.
And Mash, from your perspective, being down there, seeing the defense, what kind of your overall thoughts on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think along the same lines, I think the game plan and the call sheets were the right ones. I think a lot of times it just came down to executing with proper fundamentals and techniques, and playing the game the way we want to teach it.
And as the game kind of sat in, we responded and we came back and were able to score. And on the next drive, making it 14-6, another pre-snap penalty, back us up. We made the extra point, then we miss it. Then we kick off, we win first down, and then there was a post-snap penalty. We get them out of the hole. And if we just look at the game from a whole, and I got to sum it up. Yeah, there were times when they executed and we didn't. But there were also times when we made plays and then we hurt ourselves. And then there were times that we put ourselves behind the 8 ball. We put them ahead of it because of pre-snap penalties or because of a post-snap infraction or because of a substitution error. And so when I look at all that together, that's when I look hard into the mirror and say, we just didn't have them quite prepared enough. And so we gotta look back at what our weekly process is and how we're preparing them. It doesn't matter what I've done in the past. This is this team. And so that's what, me and the coaches have spent a long time. I spent all weekend thinking about it. We spent several hours today talking about it. And did we, have we fixed the problems? We won't know, We certainly will not err because we're scared of trying and like I said, iterating this thing. And I'm confident we will get it right. We will find that model and that flow of practice that helps us hit all the phases of the game plan that we need to do. And so the boys can go out there confident on Friday nights, knowing their assignment's cold, knowing, when and where they're supposed to be on the field. That way we don't have all these, unforced errors early in the game that put us behind or in critical moments.
Yeah. I think the unforced errors definitely hurt. But the one thing I thought that was encouraging was I didn't see a quit in the team in watching the game. They kept on getting opportunities, kept on moving the ball until the last second on the clock. And so that was encouraging to see. So I want to talk about that. Some of the bright spots, some of the positives to build on. What were the specific areas, Coach Clack, that you saw that you were encouraged by?
Yeah, I think you hit it. And I don't even like to call that a silver lining, and again, change the words if you don't like it, like moral victories and things of that nature. Here's what I believe, though. Like there's two scorecards kind of in every game. There's one of your execution and putting the points on the scoreboard and keeping the points off, right? That's an obvious scorecard that everybody's going to keep. And then you go back through your keys to victory and how you measure why we had success or why we didn't, and you learn from that. But the other scorecard is our bet. It's the brotherhood, it's the effort and the toughness. And as much as we talk about that from a behaviors and a cultural and building better young men from this, it also should show up on the field. There were several moments, especially with early adversity. And again, just sometimes we were just getting beat, by maybe a senior going against a freshman, or maybe somebody playing a varsity football game for the first time. There was a lot of them out there for us. But what I looked at is I never saw, the team quit. There was definitely a moment right there in the third quarter when we come out of half and it was kind of like the first quarter. It just did not go our way. But they kept fighting and clawing and had a long talk at the end of the game and eyes were locked in. Talking about what are we willing to do to get ourselves to a better place and during the week in our preparation. And it wasn't a end of the world, what are we doing type of thing. It was just more of a hard look in the eye. It's like, hey, we're in this thing together. What are we going to do about it? And, the effort was good. The toughness was good. They kept responding. And there were several moments here where I saw guys picking each other up and fight for one another. So I was very proud about that.
Yeah, Mash, you and I talked last time that the bet there, it creates a scorecard, so from your perspective, how did you guys rank up on the scorecard on week one on a tough first game out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is our mental consistency, I think, was a high spot. And particularly, when it comes to the effort and the toughness piece of bet, I think going in, you want to see how players are going to react to adversity. Are they going to step to it? Are they going to step away from it? Are they going to run from a fight or run away from a fight? And I was encouraged by what I saw with that, with keeping more of a just mental consistency throughout the game, regardless if something good or bad happened. Now, did we have dumb mental mistakes? Of course we did. But I think the foundation, I was really, really encouraged by that foundation of kind of where we were in our heads throughout the game.
Yeah, so I want to talk about what are some of the things, what are some of the lessons learned, things that maybe you learned about the team that you didn't know heading into game one?
Well, I mean, that would be a big one, right? Because I mean, that was a big question mark as we were coming in, and something that I had heard was kind of prevalent last year. So now that it's for real, are we going to meet it? So that was positive feedback there in that regard. That gives me confidence going into this now bye week and getting ready for game two, that we're in this thing together. And I fully expect us to continually to take steps and steps and steps. I always say it, they call it midseason form for a reason. There's probably 75% of every other team out there, even teams who won in week one, who are sitting there like having very similar conversations that we're having. And these are conversations I've had when I really think back on it year after year after year, because you remember where you finished the year before. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, wait, why doesn't it quite feel right? Well, remember, we kind of went through these growing pains with that team as well. Other than that, I thought, our quarterback, Greg Hart, stepping up for his first varsity, start ever. I thought he played really, really well. Obviously, there's some moments he probably wish he could have back, but I talk about the embodiment of bet. That young man did it. Made some big throws. Fortunately, made even more plays and some things that brought it back. Defensively, we had some guys who were on the field an awful lot. We were talking about Amari Pratt, who probably played something like 70 snaps, darn near 70 snaps on defense. J.J. Brown, who was pulling offense and defensive duty, ended up playing 50-something snaps at D-line. Jaleel Parham, I mean, he's as good of a corner as there is out there, but he is developing into one of the more dynamic pass catchers that I think it could be in the state. And so we saw those guys kind of step up and pull double duty. And then we saw some areas of concern that we knew. And it was kind of affirmation in a way. Again, up front, There were two that played a bunch. One
Yes.
started center, one playing a lot of right tackle, rotating guys there. There's not that consistency of just, hey, these are our 5 dudes, and they run out there together every time. And it's going to be an ongoing challenge, and that's a part of what makes this so much fun. It maybe not in the moment all the time. It's frustrating, and you second guess yourself, or the hours start stacking up, and you're tired. But you just keep grinding, man, and you got to dealt the hand that you're dealt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be some conversation with guys about, hey, man, maybe we need to ask you to do another role or transition your role here. And we're ready to have those conversations. Same thing with coaches about, how we're best preparing. And so that's really what game 1 is. There was no big, wow, didn't see that coming or anything like that. Some positives, like I said, with some players who finally got to play their first game. But other than that, I still think we're such in the infancy stages of this team, and what a welcome bye week to continue to gel and implement some practice plans and procedures that I think can help us continue to develop and find the time that we need so that each side of the ball and special teams gets enough time, as well as putting in our need for extra fundamental work to make sure we're good there, because you can't just scheme. You got to be playing with the correct techniques and fundamentals when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things kind of showed up. That was one of now that I think about the question, there's a lot of fundamental work that we need to go back in and really emphasize, from our blocking, our tackling, our pad level, and our ball security, which to me is, I don't care what you draw up. If you aren't doing those 4 things, you're going to have a tough time winning ball games.
Yeah.
To follow up on that, one of the things I learned, and I heard one of our players talking to another player after the game. So the score was already written in pen. We weren't going to change that. And he said, we lost, but it feels different. He said it feels different than it did last year on a loss. That was something I learned, because what that tells me is that they have at least an inkling of what buy-in looks like and what it can be potentially based on everything that we've done, going back to March. And so while, it's still an L in the column, if the players are saying, yeah, it's an L, but it feels different, to me, that's a big positive.
That's a huge positive. It's a huge positive. So, and I want to, that kind of tees me up for this next question, because I was going to talk about the mindset of the team, certainly in the locker room, both the team and the staff coming out on that first game. And as you start to prepare, you got 2 weeks to prepare here for your next game. But what that overall mindset looks like right now.
Yeah. Like I said, I took them straight back to the locker room because I wanted to have, no distractions. I didn't want to rush my message. And it wasn't because I was going to say some things that didn't need to be heard. It was, I just wanted that moment for us. And it was a lot of, I don't know what you expect right now. That didn't feel good. And we know we didn't put our best product on the field. You just can look at the unforced errors, the ball security, those things that we talk so much about we can control some of these things. So let's make sure we're great at them. And we're not there yet. But if you think we're going to quit on you, if you think that this means we come in on Monday and now it's, let's run them and, make it so hard on them. No, that's not what you're going to get here. We're constantly going to be working to improve. I just need to buy in from everybody. It can't be lip service about, we need to get serious about X, Y, and Z. And I challenged them. I said, what are you willing to give that you're not currently giving? Maybe what are you willing to give up that you are currently still doing? And that's where this trust is going to happen. And that's how we collectively turn this thing in, because it's, guys, we've talked about first, for 7 months, but this was a real first. This is the real first ride. And we've worked 7 hard months to get here, and it's going to be gone because there's only 10 opportunities. And so I don't think that we wasted one. I wouldn't say that. There were plenty of lessons that can be learned. Do we learn them? Do we apply them? Do we have the right mindset to show up on this bye week and understand, hey, this is just another opportunity to get better, because it can be mission critical for us, and a huge right place, right time moment, so that we can kind of take some of those lessons, start to try to implement them, get ahead of the next opponent a little bit, so that we roll into next Monday, the next true game week, way ahead than we were this one, which I think could be a huge positive.
Yeah. So let's talk about, as big picture, kind of as you look forward. Obviously this is just one game. It's a non-region game. All the goals that you have set up for the season are still in front of you. But let's talk about that. How does this game change anything from the goals that you have? Do you add anything new on the board, or are you still tracking the same goals that you had?
No, and again, we've talked about this before, and that's why I try not to make these 10-0 goals or these, beat this team goals. It's always going to stay the same. Play the most games possible, right? Which then does highlight, hey, those region games are the ones that matter a little more than these other ones. As much as we want to win them all, we're building for that region, and then playing our best ball when ball matters most, right? So we're going to continue to build, and we're going to continue to assess. We're going to make sure we're taking care of the guys the best we can, and from our recovery throughout the week to the way we'll modify practice as we get down the road and we start hopefully finding that rhythm, and periods can start to shorten, and some of the teaching is going to turn into fewer quality reps instead of amplified quantity of reps, because we're practicing a long time right now, especially when you add up our meeting time and our walkthrough time, and by the time we start the clock, it ends up being a 2.5 hour day and then some. And I bet that's tiring on them as well. But that's part of it, that you do what it takes. You got to do what it takes. And then once you kind of get there and you get into the season, then you're looking for those modifications and trying to be skillful with how you revise the plan week in and week out.
That's what I love about the goal being to play as many games as possible. Because regardless of what happened last week, we still have the ability to play 13 or 14 games this season. That doesn't go away. And if we were to make a drastic goals change, well, then that would say that wasn't a good enough goal to begin with. You're going to have bumps in the road, but your mission stays the same. And our mission is to play as many games as possible, and we can still do that. Let's
talk about, I want to hear, give an opportunity, Clack, for you to kind of reflect right now, reflect just a little bit. I know you spend time at the end of the season reflecting on the season, but, I'd love to hear you right now, kind of your thoughts, on the team right now and how you balance humility with confidence as a program.
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing this podcast and delving into this kind of program consulting role, and that can be a little uncomfortable for me sometimes, because it's like, oh, I've got all the answers. No, I don't. I've done things that I think have been well thought out, and for the programs and the situations that I was in, had spent a lot of time fleshing those ideas out that I think are transferable. And much of those are a part of what we're doing right now. A lot of them. And then you go in and you have a tough one, and you started the season and you're not quite where you wanted to be. And you just got to kind of assess on those things, all right? And that's where the humility piece comes in, being humble and understanding. Look, we had the conversation today. I said, guys, this is a different roster than I've dealt with a lot of times. Just kind of where we are, the nature of it. So maybe the practice models that I came into the season thinking were, this is what we need to strive to attain and work to, maybe we need to pivot from that a little bit. Not drastic changes, but just like I'm talking to the OC and the DC, hey, maybe we need to look at simplifying. Maybe we need to look at what all we're asking of these individual players. I got to kind of do the same thing with our practice plans. And so reflecting a lot on that. But then also, again, just always trying to temper it against, just because you had a bad result, had a bad outcome, because you're not where you are right now, doesn't mean it's a wholesale pivot change. New schemes, new this, new that. No. Well, he needs to go play here. No. You need to take it case by case, identify problems, identify things that are causing the issues, and look for solutions to those. And you kind of do that just, again, consistently over time, throughout the year. It's an ongoing process. So, that's kind of where I am right now and how I think about it, and realizing nobody have all the answers. There are no silver bullets. We're working through this thing together. And taking the feedback from the coaches, taking feedback from the players. I talked to a lot of them individually after the game and throughout, and I will continue throughout the week, and just kind of seeing, really, where's your head at? What are the issues? I'm not looking for you to call a coach out or call a player out, but just tell me what goes on through your head, because you guys look like you're maybe thinking too much at times, or you're not quite sure at times. Why? Where is the hang up so we can fix it?
Yeah, so as we start to look forward, obviously the timing works out good. You've got a bye week here, so you got 2 weeks now to plan for your next game. Let's talk to me a little bit about, what does the process look like from here? What does the next 2 weeks look like as you get ready for what's surely going to be another good game against West Forsyth?
Sure, right. So at first, seeing that we had a bye week 2, I didn't quite love it. but I actually do love it now for who we are and where we are and what we're collectively trying to do. Because we finally got some real feedback, right? We've had a scrimmage game, and now we've been in pads for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Had a scrimmage game, now a real game. So that's enough data to say, okay, we've had a full game week prep. There were some things I didn't like about the flow of our week, so we're going to discuss that. Still some things where, year one, first time together staff, we're still trying to catch up on to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we also have an opportunity to study our next opponent. Now, we won't go deep dive because we'll have a whole nother game. They've only played one game too. They'll have a whole nother game. But we can still get a good idea about what they like to do on offense, what they like to do on defense, and start preparing our players. Another process change that we're going to make, I was trying to keep them home all weekend. I used to bring my guys in on Sunday to kind of get ahead of some of the things for the week. And while it is bringing them into a 6-day work week instead of a 5, what that does is it kind of takes care of a lot of things that you then don't have to do on Monday and Tuesday, or at least get them ahead. And I felt like that was also something that was kind of difficult this week, and just felt like we were always rushed for time. Because, we were trying to teach them what flushing the game looks like. And as we talked about the scrimmage game and then the game plan of the next, trying to fit all that in the first of the week, I just don't think it didn't benefit us. So those are the little things that will change. Another big thing this week is we got our first JV game. And so naturally, as we've started now getting into game prep, and again, we're just trying to get it all ready for game one, those guys maybe got a little less attention the last couple of weeks. So we really want to ramp up some attention on them. I know we got a great day planned for them tomorrow while the varsity guys watch some film and go back over some of that stuff. And then, we'll just kind of filter it through the week. Like to try to shorten practice a little bit for those varsity guys. Again, it's hot. I mean, that's another thing with this time of the year. They call it the dog days of August for a reason. You've handled the heat. Now you're throwing the pads on and it's still hot and it gets hotter. That's a real thing. So I know I want to monitor that and maybe they feel a faster practice. We can do a little more competitive things against one another where we're not worried about schemes and sharpen up our skills that way. So again, it is kind of a balancing act of lowering a little bit of the volume for the varsity guys, giving a little bit more attention to the JV guys, cleaning up some things that we need to clean up, whether it be schematically, practice, special teams, something like that. Trying to bring some energy and some excitement back with some of the competition drills and situational kind of scrimmage type things to add some excitement to the week. And then yes, 30% of this week is used to start looking ahead and getting ahead to make this bye week really count as a plus for us, as we get ready for the next opponent.
Look, it's a good point, Coach, right? Because you can look at the bye week as a positive or a negative, but you have control over that. We have control over whether we're going to make it a positive, that we had an early bye or not. I like it that's still ahead of us. We can still control it.
And as you look ahead at West Forsyth, I just got to ask: is there any additional incentive there for you, just knowing that it's a school that you coached in the past? Just to
that question came up the other day, and that was certainly an emotional game when I was at Milton, and we were still in the same region. And I had been at West for 10 years, went from position coach to coordinator to head coach for 3 years. And then so when I stepped away and went to a region foe, that was emotional. And so it always carried a little more weight. I would say honestly now that's been 8-9 years ago. I got nothing but respect for that program, who's never had a losing season, who continues, whether they get the credit or not, to put out a good product. Because Fela, I've known for a long time since he was at Etowah, and now at West does a terrific job. Other than, just having a little familiarity with them, a little more familiarity with them and knowing a few people still who were there. That's not a big factor of, we got to get one for coach, West Forsyth.
The good news is this is the first home game. So anything Panther fans out there can look forward to, especially from that night, what kind of predictions can you give for fans coming out?
Well, I tell you, I thought the energy for the scrimmage game, being the scrimmage game, was really good. The stadium was buzzing, and I hope people are realizing now our home games are at 7. I know that's a little bit of a change and something that a lot of the Gwinnett County schools were moving towards. So hopefully they get there early and can give the energy there. I'm excited to announce our a premier stadium sponsor, Justin Williams with Williams and Williams, who's come in and just been a tremendous blessing for this football program, as he is now the official sponsor of the Big Orange Jungle. So shout out to Justin Williams and Williams there, and just a huge support there that has really helped us in one of the big three objectives is when I came in, was building that support back, both from just an energy and a fan collective community support, but also a financial support, putting a lot of effort into our pipeline and our youth, and obviously securing that locker room and getting those boys to buy in and this staff to buy in together to be one accord. Other than that, man, it's home opener, baby. Hopefully the Panther fans come out and they get loud and give these boys some energy, and they'll have a little comfort of being at home instead of a 2-hour trip, to Paulding County, and hopefully that gives us a little juice there.
Hey, you mentioned the youth program. Just a shout out to that 8th grade team, I think, who had a really good jamboree game this Saturday. I know those coaches are doing a really good job with that squad.
Yeah, I think they're like 45 strong now, and I've gotten to spend a lot of time with them, and they practice right there on campus. So right now the head's in the weeds a little bit, so I don't get out there as much as I like, but I'm looking forward to popping in over there and seeing those guys work and getting over to see them at Mountain Park when they get their season officially cranked up. So they're doing a great job.
Well, the good thing about that is all the groundwork that you laid in the beginning of, in the off season, getting involved in the community, starting first with the youth programs. The future is looking really, really bright for Parkview. So, it's great to get that first game under the belt. Great to get some real film that you can look at and study and get ready. And, hopefully when we come back here for our next coaches show, we'll be talking about a win that we got against West Forsyth. So,
no doubt.
Appreciate your guys' time today, and we'll try to do this, I think, every Sunday now. So look forward after every game that we have. We'll get together. We'll kind of just recap on the week and get a temperature gauge, feel of what's going on with the program and how things are shaping up there. So again, appreciate your guys' time today. I really enjoyed it, and the coaches, we'll see you out in the field. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Get to work.